All right, interesting topic today. We're going to talk about a guy who's been wrapped up in trade rumors since honestly before the draft. The Montreal Canadiens and fans and analysts have been talking about, hey, they need to clear out some space so that they can re-sign guys like Kirby Dach, okay, who's very important to be signed, as well as Caden Primo. So in order to get this space, they're going to need to maybe move out some other guys. And we're looking at guys like Mike Hoffman, like Christian Dvorak. What do you do with Jonathan Drouin's contract? Like, there's a bunch of different balls in play here for the Montreal Canadiens, but Josh Anderson is one that's been mentioned a lot. And honestly, it just depends, because we know that Kent Hughes was getting lots of calls about him around the draft, but Kent Hughes wasn't interested in moving him. Of course, he was listening, because he's always going to listen to what maybe makes his team better, but he wasn't super excited and booking Josh Anderson's plane ticket to get him out of town. So I really think that this could very well happen, but the Habs could also keep him. But if they really are trying to switch the reins over to the kids here, they do need to take a real hard look at, hey, we're selling pretty high on this guy right now, being only 28 years old, right in his prime. Maybe a team who would go deep in the playoffs, like I'm looking at a Tampa, if they could somehow magically wave that magic wand and get some cap space. Colorado, Florida. There's teams who would be salivating over this big body, 6'3", 227. He's physical, he's mean, he can fight anybody in the league. He can give you 20 goals if he's having a good season. I mean, he only got one true 20-goal season, but he flirts with it every single year. I mean, 17-goal seasons, 19-goal seasons. He can get you over 20, and one season was 27 goals. So the dude can play in the playoffs. Teams are going to salivate over this guy. But here's the problem, and here's why Habs fans, and honestly a lot of people around the Habs, are saying maybe they should take a look at trading this guy. It's the cap hit. It's the cap hit for the next, to 22, 23, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, okay, with a modified no trade clause, which is, that's steep for a 28-year-old, and a guy like Josh Anderson who bangs and bruises all the time. He's going to be injury prone. He's already been a bit injury prone with the Habs. And that contract takes him to 33 years old, where you're paying him $5.5 million a year. That could loom large on the Montreal Canadiens, because don't forget that Carey Price makes $10.5 million per season for a long time. Nick Suzuki's new 8-year contract that pays him just under $8 million has just kicked in as well. So there's a lot of things to consider here. You got to pay Cole Caufield as well. He's going to command a pretty penny, especially if he has the season that I think he's going to have this year. So to me, a guy like Josh Anderson, especially if you start to get a log jam down the right side of the ice, because you've got good prospects coming. You've got Gallagher, who's already at a hefty cap hit there on the right side. You've got Caufield. You've got Yolonen, who's really waking up. Dadonov, who might be traded. He can play both wings, but he's primarily a right winger. So there's a lot of guys in a logjam on that right side. They've got guys coming down the pipe. Slafkovsky, I know he's more of a left winger, but just wingers in general, because generally wingers, they can flop to both sides. It's not like defensemen where it's tough to get a right-handed defenseman to play the left side of the ice. With wingers, they interchange a lot, okay? So I don't think it's that big of an issue there, but what is the logjam and the large number you have to pay Josh Anderson. So teams, again, it just depends what kind of offer they get. I mean, if they start the season, Josh Anderson gets injured again, that's tough, because the dude's already kind of being labeled as injury prone. But if he comes out here and he hits hard, he has a couple of big fights, a couple of big goals, teams are going to be salivating over this guy, and I would not be surprised to see first-round pick plus something else for Josh Anderson. Seriously, I know a lot of people are going to scoff at that. Like, what are you talking about? But this is the type of guy the GMs in the playoffs dream about. Okay, I'm telling you right now that they will dream about a guy like Josh Anderson when playoff time kicks around, when the trade deadline time kicks around. This might not exactly be the best time to trade him, but then again, you look at it, and with Josh Anderson, I mean, he just scored 19 goals in 69 games. He was a minus 25, which is horrendous, but he was playing on a really bad team, and he still put up 19 goals with line mates who weren't that amazing. I mean, he did get to play with Suzuki quite a bit, but still, I mean, 19 goals on a bad team is good for this type of player, and I think they could get a good amount of assets for him. But you're always taking that risk if you walk into the season with him. Personally, I think he's not going anywhere for now. But I think if the Habs are not making the playoffs by the trade deadline time and they're still looking to sell and they're going to look to get a really high draft pick, bye-bye, Josh. I absolutely, I think this guy's good as gone, because while the contract to me is not great, it's also not terrible either. I mean, you only got to pay $5.5 million, and I know it's 5 years, so it's a long time, but for a 28-year-old, for a team acquiring him, it's not as bad as a team like the Habs, who is staring a rebuild right in the face right now, and they need as many young, really good assets as they can get. Josh Anderson can absolutely give them that. I think that's the way to go. Keep him for now, if I'm them, and try to sell him towards the trade deadline. We'll see what happens. As we know, Kent Hughes has been taking calls on him, as well as Hoffman, as well as Dvorak. Like, there's a lot of moves to be made here. Paul Byron's name's been thrown around. Like, the roster is going to be a lot different. There's going to be a lot of change within that Montreal Canadiens locker room. And honestly, Anderson very well might be one of the next guys to go. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.